Hello and welcome. I'm Bill Wake. We're working on a program to compare tunes for Similarity. We've done a bit of analyses, but we need to come back and kind of fill in all the rest of the musical side of things. We've got enough for basic songs, but there's some complexity we need to handle. And one of those things is repeats. So in music, you can have a section that says, I'm to be repeated. It's marked with a bar line and a colon on either end, and you play the section once, then you go back and play it again. There's also some interaction with the notion of parts, like an A part and a B part, and how you repeat through that. We've got to work through all that. Let's see, where we left off. We started working on the notion of repeats, and we did the parsing for simple numbers. So you can say bar 1 or bar 2, and that means this is the first ending or the second ending. So you'll play through it once, play the first ending, go back to the beginning, play through it again, but stop at the, before the endings and go to the second ending and play that. It's good to parse it, but now we got to work out how to represent things. And I think I'm not fully sure what we're going to do, but we'll push through. So one of my insights yesterday was that the repeat structure, like this one, is kind of like a regular expression, but it doesn't have choice. So it's really sequence and repetition. And so I'm representing the repetition with this colon and sequence with and I'm using parentheses. I guess I'm putting stuff in brackets that's the contents of a measure, and there probably should be an and here. So this one, we repeat A, F, G, then we play B, C. And so I think we can define our way through, this A, then F, G, that whole thing gets repeated twice, kind of a by default, and then followed by playing B, C. So we haven't put together this structure yet, and I think that's what we need to do. I think our starting point, we haven't worried about first and second endings yet. I think we're going to have some work to do there. I'm not quite sure. Maybe our representation isn't quite right. It probably is, a repeat is probably a main body, a common part, and then a set of endings. All right, so, well, let's go in. All right, I believe we started a test. Yes. Okay, I want to start a simpler test. Story of my life. All right, let's duplicate this. And we'll comment out the more complicated test. We can ignore it too, but I don't know. This works better for me. Okay, applies repeats. So repeats are sort of the simple form. You have a bar line with bar colon, then you have some stuff with more bar lines optional, and then a colon bar. And that says that should be repeated. Okay, so let's leave out the ending 1 and ending 2. I'm not going to worry about that part. I'm just going to worry about this. Colon A, bar B, colon. Okay, so it should play A, B, A, B. All right, now the part structure. Well, have we... I guess we're going to assert something about the events, and by default this is the A part. So, well, let's just start here and work our way forward. Okay, so event to parts dot make, and then if you look at parts A sub 0 dot symbols, well, let's look at what a part is. Do we have it here still? I don't see it. Okay. Part. Okay. So, well, a part is a set of measures. So you can add measures, do that. I don't think that's really right for us. I think the notion of a set of measures is somewhat okay. The repeats and all that add something outside it. So I don't know where part, this is one kind of part to me, really. It's maybe this notion of accumulating the measures is not a good one for us. Let's see how this is used in event to parts. Okay. So the problem I see is here it is in a nutshell. We don't know how to handle endings, and we don't know how to handle repeats. We get a bar line, and we just append the current measure, but that's not really enough. Let's go to bar line. It's more complicated. It knows which bar line it uses, but we don't make any use of that right now. We just throw it in. Okay. Where is it appending the current measure? Well, it's putting it in this parts thing. I feel like I have to kind of tear things up and reassemble them. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to create an object that's holding a set of measures, a sequence of measures. And rather than appending it to the current part, I want to append it to that thing. And then at the end, I want to make sure that's emptied out, which I think kind of happens because we call append current measure at the end. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out. We're going to, well, I can do the other thing. It's like ignore test somewhere here. What's on here? Disable test. Okay, let's run tests. Okay, so what's going on is I want to say part is more like this complex structure that we've defined down here, kind of like regular expressions, in that they group and nest other things. As of today, it's just a flat list of measures, and there's no structure to it at all. And so I want to put the structure in a way that I can extend this to handle the other cases. So I'd like to make it enums. So enums are, they're called sum types, SUM, that you get sort of, there's a choice situation. So I'm going to be either a set of measures or a repeated section or a common section. And maybe an ending, like we got to work out how that's going to be. If I do that with an enum, it's easier to manage value types than to manage class types. So we made this a class because it was wrapping measures. But really, I would like it to be, I'd like to just compute the set of measures before we go in and create something. So I'm going to push towards that direction. I don't know. It's a combination of me. I'm trying to articulate the design principles going on here. So one is this notion that class types where there's mutating state are going to be harder to work with and harder to manage. And in particular, if I've got an enum, I'd really rather just give it some value object, simple state, and not get into like what class are you and what's your identity and all that stuff. Notice this thing doesn't really have identities. It just wraps this class, and I just don't think that's enough for us. I want to push it outside, and then in the end, I want to say there's a case in my enum. One is like a measures, and it's just a list of measures, and those measures have been pre-computed, and we're fine. All right, so I'm going to go back to event to part tests. Oh, and we should look at this. Right, I said ignore it. It grays it out. Excuse me. All right, so this is this append current measure. Excuse me. I'm going to have to get a drink in a minute, I think. So what happens is append current measure is kind of this focal point. If there's nothing in the measure, we're not going to bother. But if there is, we're going to build a measure from the current meter and the current symbols, whatever they are. List of symbols. Okay, excuse me. And all right, so we've been accumulating symbols in a measure. Now we're accumulating a measure. We're going to put it in the current part. And we're going to reset the symbols and keep track of the meter. I don't know why that would change. Something's a little funny there to me, but okay. Then we switch parts. That means we've encountered, so this thing is, the events is a stream. You see notes, rests, bar lines, things, but key change can happen and meter change and stuff like that. And what's going on is that we get this stream of stuff, and then somebody pops up and says part. Hey, we're now in part B. Well, we want to take care of the old measure in the previous part, and then switch to the new part and start accumulating stuff for that. Okay, but I think we're, see, right now we're writing all this stuff into new measure. I'm sorry, into current part. I don't want to do that. I want this to be part of the switch to. And then maybe at the end, we have to do one more sort of pseudo switch. Okay. Switch to says set current part to part name. So here's the new one. If current part is nil. So we want to make sure we got something to append to. All right, so that's okay. All right, so let's do this thing. What we're going to do is we're going to try and make an object out of part subcurrent part, and then save it at the appropriate time rather than as we go. Okay, so I'll do it in parallel, and then I'll switch over. And doing it in parallel is definitely a very common refactoring technique. It's for slightly bigger than your average refactoring, but it lets us get it right in the new way before we worry about getting rid of the old way. All right, so the new way is going to be this we're going to append a new measure to something. Okay. And let's just add it. I'm not sure where to put it, but all right, let's just go with measure so far, or measures so far. Measures accumulator is array of measure. Starts empty. Okay, and so basically when I add to part, subcurrent part, I want to append to the new one too. That's a long name. Okay, so now measures accumulator matches parts append. Let's see. Okay, the first one, it takes the current part and creates an empty one for it. So that's in effect, it's kind of a switch to current part, but it's just kind of seeding things. A is the first current part. Okay, so by default, current part is A. Again, maybe that's pushing it, but that's what we got. All right. Okay, so every time we let's take parts. Let's just look at that. Okay. There we've appended. Here we have not appended. And so I would make the case that we maybe this is not good. I wanted to say reset this. Yeah, that's what I want. I want to reset it. Okay, so that should happen regardless. Okay, we've switched parts, so now the measure accumulator should be empty. And I feel like we're not writing it out where we need to, but that's okay. Move it up. Okay. Anywhere else? Part sub. Well, that's initializing it. We could probably move our initialization down here too. Okay. And any more parts ofs? No. Okay, append current measure. And then at the end, we append. Okay. All right, this should be safe. Okay. So now, I want to get this line out. All right. But I at some point, I want to append measures accumulator. All the accumulated measures. Okay. All right. Now, if I don't do this here, when can I do it? Well, one time is when I switch, I should append the current measures to accumulate. So this is measures accumulator. Okay. And I may have to, yeah, I gotta say append. Oh, come on. Oh, maybe that's a problem. Okay, that's going to be problematic because it wants all one at a time. Parts of current part is going to be a part, I think. Parts. Yeah, maps to part. Okay. Alrighty. So this is problematic here. Well, I mean, one thing we could do. All right, let's just get through it. So let's do measures accumulator dot for each, and then inside there we're gonna do $0. So run through every measure we've accumulated it and add it to the current part, and then reset the accumulator. All right, now that I think is okay for this situation. We switch to it, but then at the end, we've accumulated the measure. We append the last measure. Let's get down to the end. Okay, whatever measure we're working on, we've appended, but we also now need to deal with storing this. Okay, I'm going to inline this. Well, all right, I'm going to duplicate and then clean up. That's what I'm going to do. All right. Measures accumulator, if there's anything to append to the current part, basically if there are any measures accumulated, append them to the current part, reset this for whatever reason, and return. All this should pass. Now I'm switching over, so there's some risk here. Oh yeah, there's risk. Okay. Let's see who's upset. F4, 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 F4 is not equal to F4, F4. Interesting. Now, some of these will be real problems. This one is not. Well, basically, we've got an F in the key of G and an F in the key of C. F, new line, key, F. So, what do we get? F4, F4. So, F and G, F and C, F and G, F and C. So we got it twice. All right. Again, I think we got too much stuff coming in. All right, let's see what happens on these. Note tabulator. Well, okay. Let's find the tests for event to part tests. Those no okay. Parts parser. Okay, again, I think we're going to be too much. F, F, D, D, F, F, D, D is not equal to F, D, F, D. Okay. B, BA2. So this should be B, 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 A, B, A. All right. B is F, A is D. So it should be F, D, F, D. It's not equal to expected. So it was F, 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 D, D. Everything's coming in twice. Okay, what am I doing? Am I still appending my... All right. I may revert and try again because I messed something up clearly. Okay, so append current measure. Oh, I still have parts that append. All right, let's try that again. Cool. All right, let's. So what we did was we switch event to parts to hold a temporary list of measures rather than accumulating it into the part. All right, so I considered a refactoring. It's definitely not a by the book one. It's definitely not automated, but it gives us something. So, well, what does it give us? It's well, I want to switch over to. Let's look at part. Now, does anybody call append on it? They do. Parts, current part. That's the two places here. Measures accumulator. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, oops, part. Append. Does anybody call this? Tests. Tune. Measure map. Measures for parts of index. Okay, and what about this one? I want to get people not using it. Okay. Index equal to measures for part return measure empty. Yeah, that's sort of true. Okay. Why you're indexing them by integer is a little funny. Okay. Well, what I want to do is I want to make part an enum and then give it measures as one of its things. Okay. Again, this is not a standard refactoring. I really want. Can I make this? Well, what I want to do is I want to say enum public enum part. And one of the cases is measures and holds a bunch of measures. Okay. And so I'm kind of splitting this concept. And I think if I do that right. Okay, let's rename this one. And so we can push people down into there if they really hold measures. Most of the callers are going to. Some people will break because they're not ready to deal with an enum. Like this thing. Okay, so this, let's make this on part measures. Okay. Now, there's going to be a lot of places code-wise that break. Okay. Well, less than I thought, but enough. I don't know why event to part wouldn't be in both, but okay. Part has no member, append. Well, parts of current part should be a dot measures. But what's funny is it may already have a bunch of measures in it. I think it's probably horrible style, but I bet there's no restriction against saying I'm starting part A, put a few notes, starting part B, put a few notes, go back to A, put a few more notes. It's kind of okay. I think I may need to not, I don't know if I can block that. But for whatever reason, there may be measures in there already. And I think what I need to say is the the current part, like the measures that are there, we've got these new ones that want to be appended on the end. They're a sequence, and maybe I need to do that here. I don't know. This is what do I call it? Indirect enum. We have to put indirect because I want to say a sequence is a part and a part. Okay. And that's legit as well. Is part nothing. All right, let's look at them all. Okay, append, yeah, that we can deal with. Part, this is clearing it out, and that's a little weird. Clearing it out and another append. Okay, what about part? Oh, hey, it caught up. Part measures does not conform to equatable. Let's do this. Okay, getting smaller. It's going to break people when we actually switch, so that's why I'm holding off. Now this, I don't know if this should be an optional thing or how I'm going to represent the fact that it's empty. Okay. Well, I'm going to say it's measures empty. Okay, and one down here. Append. Append. Okay, so here I want to say part subcurrent part equals, and now I have whatever it was, part subcurrent part. I need to make a sequence out of that with measures accumulator, and then no longer do this. Okay. And same thing here. We're going to take whatever it started with, append measures accumulator. Okay, and then this one's going to go away. So sequence, and this has to be a measures of that. And then same thing up here. Okay, so now when we append to something, we make a sequence out of it, whatever it had before, plus the block of measures that we had just accumulated. Now, right, so anybody who uses this stuff is going to be all screwed up. All right. I can't believe it's just these things either. But let's adjust. So when you ask for parts, instead of getting the measures, well, can I get them back out? Let's open parts. Actually, let's open part. Okay. This, we used to just say subscript. Now, I don't know, this is still, is this being used? No. Okay, let's comment it for the moment, but it's going away, I hope. All right. But now there's no subscript. Is complicated. Oh, I don't know. Okay, let's see if we can find all these things. Okay, this one expects to get one measure out by calling subscript. This one wants one measure out by calling subscript. Equatable has no member note. Okay, I don't think that's quite. This is measure. Okay. So these tests aren't really digging through the whole thing, but I think we can say well, we may need to test this. I don't know. All that can happen now. Well, let's do this. Let's give this thing a way to ask for a certain measure number. Okay. And what should happen? Yeah, we can't just ask for the measures. All right. You're asking this part. Well, now he's compound. All right. And so we'll switch on self. You can be case measures with let measures. You can be case sequence with let part A, well, part, let part 1, let part 2. Okay. And this one corresponds to that first case. Okay, so return measures subindex. Okay. Oh, what's the other complaint? I can put the let in front? No. Okay. So if this thing is just a simple measures and you ask for measures subindex, then we just return whatever measure is at that index. Okay. The tricky one is this one. All right. Let's see. If part 1 has measures subindex. All right. I'm working too hard here. How can I do this? Let's put something in temporarily. Let's return part 1 dot part 1 sub index. All right. This is not completely correct. We need to test drive the rest. I'm going to ignore the error, but I want to get through the test and then figure out the real thing is I have to look at the contents of part 1 and part 2. If the index is acceptable for part 1, then we'll take that. Otherwise, we'll subtract part 1's count and do that. So there's going to be some work. But right now, we know we don't ever create sequences with, oh shoot, we do know that. This is not going to work. All right, let's see if it builds. It should fail because I start with an empty. Yeah. Part cannot be constructed. Let's take a look there. Public. That's all right. Part. No, this is really dot measures. Okay. And then, whoop. Enum case measures. Oh, I'm getting buried. Took it a step too big. Maybe I got to back out. Okay, let's do it. Let me think what I've got that I like. So I'm trying to get this indirect enum thing. I don't know. I'm kind of close, but not close enough. The other way I could go about this is put the work in to test this thing into real shape and then broaden out to the rest. It means not checking in while I do it, so I'm not so happy about that. But let's see, do we even have, we have part tests. Okay. They're very primitive. Okay. We're taking these out. Thought I did that for everything, but okay, here's part. I want, well, I can't do it while I can't build. All right, what else is wrong from a build point of view? Enum case measures. Okay, so part. What type is part? It's a part. He has no measures because he doesn't do things that way anymore. If we gave part a measures function, okay, part measures, well, that's a consequence of the other. Part has no member count. Well, that seems like a reasonable request. An operator requires part to conform. Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with part conforming to equatable. Man, I don't even know if we have to do this. I think we could just put it up here. I think it synthesizes it for us. Okay, part cannot be constructed. Okay, we took care of that one. Measures. Okay, if we gave part count and measures, we'd be doing something. Okay, so part, let's give it a count. Public count Public var count is, well, we got to switch again. It's this very, I don't know, there's definitely a style. I thought I did enough Elm to see it a lot there too, but your, you basically, the compiler enforces that you cover all the cases, and then you just do this kind of style where all these methods deal with the case. I don't know. I don't know. It reminds me of like very old Pascal or something, having to do that sort of thing, but that's okay. Case dot measures, let measures, case dot sequence, let part 1 and part 2. Okay. Well, measures, we know the count. It's just measures.count. And then this one, well, we pretty much can say the same thing. Return part1.count plus part2.count. I mean, I guess I could write a test. Probably will, but it's pretty straightforward. Okay, now that's count. And we need measures. Part.measures. Now this is tricky. Well, a little tricky. Public measures looks like a instance member, right? Yeah. Okay. Public measures is of type measure. It's a var. All right. And in our old thing, right, that was just this. Okay. So, let's switch self again. And same 3 cases. Sorry, 2 cases. All right. If they ask for measures and it's just a measures object, we'll just return measures. All right. And if it's, well, I think we can say let var result equals part 1 result dot append contents of. That's not right. Should just be that part 2 and return result. Okay. Let's remember append. Part 2 dot measures dot measures. Take the measures in part 1. I feel like I'm going to get an empty extra measure somewhere out of all this. All right, can I be used as an instance member? Part with part. There it goes. Cannot be constructed. Okay, I think we got that one. All right. I'm a little worried about that empty measures thing. We had to work around that. Yeah. Well, this one, where are we? We're in a test. Let's make sure these are okay before I jump too far. Okay, measure 0 out of range. I think what's happening is measure 0 is coming out of that empty thing. Okay, so I think, well, this is what's burning us, I think. Okay, because everything turns into a sequence with an empty measure at the front. I don't know if I need another case for empty or if there's some way to make it all work out. Well, okay. I guess if index is less than part1.count, then it's fine to reference part1.index. Otherwise, we're going to return part2 sub index minus count. Okay, so there were three things. We asked for position 3. I think he wants this. 3. If there are three things in part 1, 0, 1, 2, and then index 3 should get to the part 2. So 3, it's equal to count. So we do index minus count. Well, 3 minus 3, and we're good. Okay. I've got this thing complaining to me. I tried to be more strict on my formatting standard. I knew it would catch up to that one eventually. Okay. Now, I think, well, something should pass. I don't think we'll see that particular error again. Right, where are we? In that very same test, of course. Okay. But the good news is we're compiling. So now I think I can go in and test my part properly. It's kind of a backwards way to get there. And I maybe, this empty measure thing is bugging me. Oh, it departs. That we're this. All right, and let me check my part1.count. What is this? All right. I'm still not liking it. All right, let's check in what we got. My goodness. That was a pretty horrid step, I got to admit. Make part an enum with measures and sequences. Adjust everything else accordingly. All right. If it had been any bigger, I definitely would have had to start over. Okay, let's get rid of this. Let's clean up what we can, and then we'll backfill these tests. Okay, but I'm still puzzled here, right? Having this empty list of measures feels awkward. I guess my choices are, I could, when I append, I could look at it and decide if it's anything to append to. I mean, if the count is 0, then there's no reason to actually do an append. We could just take the second list. Another way to do it would be to put an explicit empty case in our enum, and then we'd say the count is 0, then enum, the measures is empty. Would you ever generate this for real? I guess you might. If somebody started a part and then didn't put any notes in it, then maybe they put other stuff. I don't know. Seems unlikely-ish. Okay, and we're not handling endings. We put that off. That is covered by what we do. Okay. I think all we've done is deleted, commented out stuff here. Okay, let's go take part seriously and do some counting and stuff. Now, measures, we don't have any repeats yet, so it's not too bad, I guess. All right, I'm going to put count before subscript. I'm trying to make things tell a story, and I think it's sort of a more primitive notion to say, I can tell you the count seems more primitive than the subscript. And then why a subscript here and a measures? Like, why did they need the whole list of measures? I don't know. Okay, but let's do part tests. Take that out. All right. Oh, now is this a parsing? It really is more related to the parsing. Let's go to tests. I mean, part order is, it's a domain type, I guess. Oh, that's the problem. These should be part order tests. Okay. And I need a part tests. I'm trying to figure out how I had one when it was nothing in it. Part tests. Okay. And that can go here, and that's fine. So let's get put part tests and part. Okay, so let's test count. All right, and it's really the count of measures. Let's say measure count. All right, and this doesn't take repeats into account because we don't do them yet. So first case is, let's just assert equal. If we say dot measures, I have to say part dot measures, with empty, that should be 0. Part dot measures. Okay. I think he's behind the times. Let's see how that does. Oh, I always forget to do this. Belongs in shared tests. I was trying to make a project that does both, and it's cost me more work, I think, than it's added. Part tests, part order tests. Okay. All right, let's try again. Really? I messed up the generic side. Part dot measures. Oh, dot count. Sorry. Okay. Measure count with no measures. All right, let's see what we can do. There's ourselves a little room here. Okay, and then this needs to be measure. Do I have to? Meter dot free. And I don't need any symbols in it. I'm just counting measures. Okay, this should be 2. Dot count. Okay, we're sort of covering 2 cases on this one. Now let's do some parts. Part dot sequence. And then inside that is a part dot measures. And inside that, well, let's give this one 1 and that one 1. All right, I'm going to make the structure show up here. Part dot measures. Measure free with that. Okay. And that's part measures. And then another part measures. Part dot sequence. Part dot measures. Part dot measures with a list of measure free nothing, close measure, comma, measure free nothing. Okay, is that all right? Dot count. Okay, should pass, and then I can do some cleanup. All right. Measure dot free with no symbols. Okay, so let's put a measure in here. And 2 measures in here. Okay, those are not multi-line. I'm hoping it just stops complaining. Well, what do I know? Multi-line arguments. Let's fit this on the same line. Again, this is my style thing is being a little complaining. Sequence measure all that dot count with 3. He wants this on a separate line too. Okay. Test part dot count. All right, so count is okay. Subscript. Now I can't check that it blows up. Test. Subscript for measures, easy enough. All right. Let's make, well, let's take this one. We're going to have to differentiate them or we won't be able to tell. All right, so let part equal measure free. Symbol is note or rest. Note. I gotta put a note inside, yeah. C, and then this one can be dot note of note D. Okay. So we have a part with 2 measures in it. We should be able to ask for 0 or 1. Let's assert part sub 1 is note D. Type measure part of 1 is a measure. Oh, okay. Ooh, I don't know if measures are comparable. I need one more. Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking for the first measure with C in it. I should look for D. All right, so if I access, I've got a part with 2 measures. One contains C, one contains D. If I ask for part 1, I should get the measure that contains D. Okay, and this one has a couple cases. It's either been part 1 or part 2. Let's just pull these out a little bit. Okay, we got 3 measures. All right, now part is going to have to be a sequence. Let's take this out. Part equals, I guess I got to say part dot sequence, and then it's got 2 parts inside it. The first one is let's just make it a measures with something in it. And then the second one is a measures with something in it. Okay, and this one's going to have measure 1. And this one's going to have measure 2 and 3. Okay, if this is sequence. Okay, so if I ask for part 0, I should get measure 1. If I ask for part 1, I should get measure 2. And if I ask for part 3, I should get measure 3. Again, should work, assuming I've done this part correctly. Okay, index out of range. Let's print index. Index is 2 and measures. So this is subscript. Did I run these? Which test is this? No, it's not. Oh, that should be a 2. You're not allowed to access out of range, just like in the real one, I guess. Okay. Check subscript access for part. Now, all right, last one, measures. I think the setup is kind of the same. I think the only difference is I don't even care. This one can fall through. If I just test this one, I'm testing this one implicitly, so I'm going to do that. Okay, measure 1, 2, 3, measures part 1, part 2, part 3. That is all okay. But if I say part dot measures, I'm getting an array back that should be measure 1, measure 2, measure 3. Okay, and I know I have to go through this code as well as this code. Okay. Let's do that. All right. Now, I'm not saying it's the best access that people are out there grabbing these things, but They do need them, right? Because we're doing things like the Parsons graph needs every measure so it can work measure to measure. All right. I'm going to close this. So measures part is in moderately okay shape. Event to parts. Let's see how I'm feeling here. Well, I think current part and current meter are almost like state, so let's pull them closer to that. The parts is kind of what we're accumulating. Events is an input. What are people calling it? They're calling make. Okay, we've accumulated all the events at that point. It's not a long-lived class. Okay, symbols in measure. Is that just symbols? Okay. Append the current measure says build the measure, add it to the measure accumulator. I think measures would be enough. Okay. Build a new measure. We can inline this. Reset the symbols. Re-establish the current meter. That seems a little funny to me. Okay, I guess it's probably due to the way you can shift the meter before a measure starts. Okay. Okay, to switch to a new part, we're going to gather up the current measures, reset them, and then it's almost a new stage. Flip the parts and start it out with an empty set if it doesn't have stuff in it already. Okay, empty set. This is reset. We don't need to reset it down here. We're throwing it away. Okay. Append current measure. Well, maybe I can pull this out. This is store measure in part. Measures in part. Okay. And who calls switch to? Should be down here. I think I'm going to take this out of here and put it above every call to switch to. And this is also store measures in part. This happens at the end. This happens when the part switches, but it doesn't happen as you're gathering stuff. Symbols and measures append. Okay. A note event becomes a symbol note. Yeah. All right. I'm not sure if I checked that last bit in. Well, okay. Yeah, we're just cleaning up extract method, reorganize slightly. Okay, we've been going a while. Let's go take a break, 3 or 4 minutes, and I think we've made some progress, even if it's a little brutal. We'll look at this stuff when we get back and see where we are. But yeah, let's take that 3 or 4 minute break, and we'll pick up from there. Thanks. All right, welcome back. So I'd say what we've done so far is we've started in on repeats, and we made part aware of measures and sequences. We don't yet do repeats, but it's definitely a step towards allowing it. And I think it's kind of a critical step for us. It moves. Originally, we had no structure. We just said it's a list of measures. Then we said, well, it's really a part which contains a list of measures. And now we said, well, a part really is a sequence of parts, first part, second part, the pieces of it. And inside there are measures. And we're making progress that way. All right. So I think we're kind of ready to start doing this. It's going to be a challenge, though. All right. So I guess the thing is, like when you see a bar line, right now we're very naive. All right. You get an event that says bar line, and you say, okay, well, we must be done with whatever the last measure was. So let's start a new measure. Okay. And that's good as far as it goes. But the problem is we may be starting a new repeat block, not just any old measure. Okay. And I don't know how we're going to manage this. The thing is, you don't know you're done. It's really kind of weird. There's a lot of ways to finish them. They're not nestable like brackets per se. You really only keep one open at a time. But I think what our design is going to do, like if we can figure this out, we want to say when you see this, you're really some sort of repeat operator. And we don't know when we see this, are you a simple repeat like this one, or are you a multiple ending repeat like this one? Okay, ending 1, ending 2. Now, ending 1 usually will contain the colon. I mean, we know it's an ending, so it has to in a way, but it contains the colon. Ending 2 might or might not. But we're going to start with just this case of that. And I don't know. This is kind of like when you think about language, like compilers and expressions and things like that, right? It's like you gotta do some sort of gathering, and then do it. I guess in effect you need to know how many times to repeat, and this it's a little tricky. But I think one thing is clear to me, that you're going to have to gather Well, once you see this, you need to be in some mode where you're gathering measures, and they need to be structured into that. And how long do you gather? Well, let's just take this case first. You're gathering until you see this close measure thing. And then you say, all those measures I've gathered, they need to go into a repeat group. And how many times does it repeat? Well, this one is 2. Yeah. And maybe more interesting is what happens here. Okay, let's make another case. Okay, this one, we want to parse A, B, and then we hit this. We have to say, well, whatever you're doing before, you're done. And the group that whatever you've done up till now is a measures. Is that true? And then we're going to start a new group. I guess we're going to append. It's going to become a sequence. AB is part 1 and CD is part 2. A sequence of a repetition. Okay. Right. So let's start driving some stuff in place. I think I'm going to put the type in the enum first, and its contents, I don't know, is it a part? I think it's going to be a part. I don't think we care. Okay. So now, let's say case repeat takes a part. Oh, well, I guess we'll have to use a different word. Repetition takes a part. Because it could be measures and sequences. I don't think we have to care. It's stuff that gets repeated. And at some point, well, for now, we just assume it's repeated. I mean, it plays twice. All right, now these things aren't happy because we lied. Repetition count, let's return 0. And I'm going to return the stupidest thing I can for any of these. Return, case repetition. Ignore that and return measure.free with nothing. I'm just making up something. Okay, and then this, of course, will return an empty list. Oops. And I know I don't have to really write it that way, but all right. So everybody should still pass. Oh, other people may care. Right. Idiom case repetition. repetition. There are other places that probably call, or perhaps call, case statements parts and may need to know, but I guess not. These three functions seem to have prevented that. All right. So add repetition for part doing nothing. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is make count, subscript, and whatchamacallit do their thing. Okay. Part tests. Okay, measure count with no measures, parts. That's and I think I think we can just start small. Okay, part dot repetition with measures of measure should be 2, because repeat does it twice, so it should have 2 measures. And I gotta say that count as usual, or as I usually forget. Okay, this is gonna fail. It returns 0. All right, and part repetition. Okay, count. It has something in it. Part, and it's 2 times part count. All right, because we're just dealing with the simple case now. We're not dealing with the numbered endings and all that. We're just dealing with plain old repetition. Trying to take the very incremental approach. Okay, and this should pass. All right. Now part test for subscript. Okay, I'm struggling because I know there's something we're not doing, and I don't know. Well, I guess I just shouldn't worry about it. We don't have numbered endings yet. This doesn't come up. All right, so this is function test subscript for repetition. Okay, we have a part with measure with C, measure with D. I want this to be a repetition. Part measures okay, so it's a repetition containing measures. And if you ask me for part 1, 0, 1, it should be D. But if you ask me for part 2, it should be C. Okay, because the repetition is there. Okay, so C, D, C, 0, 1, 2, and then 3 should be D. Maybe I should just do them all and be done with it. 0, 1, 2, 3. C, D, C, D. Okay. Should fail. Came back with none. Right. Because we lied. We just made up an empty measure. All right, so this is part. Right, so if index is less than parts count, then we do one thing. Otherwise, we do something else. Okay. If it's less than part.count, we can just take part.index, return parts of index. And if it's greater or equal to part.count, then we're going through the second repetition, and so we should take it modulo. That almost works anyway. Yeah, let's do it, and then we'll. Empty enum argument. Yeah, that's fine. It had some other complaint. I don't know what it was. Okay. Oh, editor, come on. Here we go. Good. Did we get those? Well, that seems misguided. All right. Let's do our last test. Excuse me. All right. So measures. And then measures for repetition. Okay. So I think we can be simpler. Yeah, I think measure 1, measure 2, measure 1, measure 2. And let's make a part dot repetition of well, let's add it in dot sequence of dot measures to sequence repetition. Okay, so we got C and D, a repetition of a sequence of measures C and D. And so the measure result for the whole thing ought to be measure 1, 2, because they come in sequence, and then measure 1, 2 again. All right. And this test should fail. Just showing it once. Empty is not C, D, C, D. Okay, did my warnings go away? Do I have to rebuild? Okay. Parts. All right, so now this one's kind of like the other. So we got let part. And we'll make a result is part dot measures and result dot append content of part dot measures and return result. All right. And the reason I do this is it gives me a copy, an actual copy, just kind of the way, the way arrays work in Swift, I guess you'd say. Excuse me. All right. This should pass. All right. As support for part repetition. Okay. Let's see the next step. All right. So to do, what have we done? We added make part aware of repetition. Okay. Good. All right. And then I had a refactoring I wanted to do. I think measure count might be a better name. Because there are too many things we can count after a while here. All right, refactor, rename count to measure count. Good. Alrighty, now I think we're ready to take this test on. Enable it? All right. Well, that's getting the first measure. I don't think we want that. I think we want to get part sub A dot measures. Well, let's do this. Let actual equal part sub A dot measures. Okay. Now this should be array of measure. Okay. And if we take well, if we map each measure to well, we should have 4 measures when we ask for them. We should get the measure with A, the measure with B, the measure with A, the measure with B. That's a start. Actual dot count measures, yeah, count should be 4. And then, I don't know if that's right. We can assert on those notes too, but how would that work for us? let's take actual dot flat map. There's a better way to do that these days. What do they call that? Dot. Compact map. Okay, well, let's just do flat map. The transform is measure goes to something. Okay, so given a measure, what we want to do, well, I'm trying to get notes out of this. Notes equal. Please use compact map for clicks where closure returns optional. Well, I don't. Okay, we're going to take a measure. Measure dot symbols. Map. Symbol to something. Debug description. Pitch. Okay. I thought I had some optional stuff on there. Octave. I don't really. I'm not liking that. I'm going to take what? Let's take symbol dot debug description. It's a little weird to do it, but I'm going to do it that way anyway. A, B, A. And what we're going to see is they're really going to be like, they're going to be a longer description with the shape of the note information in it, maybe the rhythm, I don't know, but we'll see. If it's going to come back AB with just the two, and then we'll adjust it. It'll be enough information to judge. Yeah, there we go. A418C. A, B, A, B. And this is 2. Okay. And then I'm just going to make this $0 and get this into one line. Map. And this is $0. Okay, take the actual flat map to get their symbols and then map that into their names. All right, and that should be a good failing test. Okay, now it gets tricky. um, all right, so I think we got to deal with two sides. One is if a bar line happens, well, a pen current measure says finish out the previous measure, right? So it builds those in and sets the current meter. That's all fine. I think that should happen regardless. But if the bar line, if it starts to repeat, we need to do something. I don't know. Okay, appending the current measure makes sense to me. If the bar line all right, if the bar line ends with what dot ends, we have starts with but not ends with. Suffix. Well, I can say last, I guess. Last is colon. Then we know we're starting a repeat block. Now, okay. Let's remember that. What's that going to do for us? Symbols in measure. I don't know. We're getting complicated. All right. Can we remember that? I hate to remember just booleans, but is in repeat equals false. Okay. There's something we should be doing, but I'm not sure what. I don't know. My test is pretty minimal for this kind of thing. I guess the thing we're not doing, we can't, we're not testing the case where there's a measure already in play. We're starting off with a repeat measure. Okay, append current measure. That's appending it to measures. So everything that came before us, we're done with. And it would be fair to store that in parts, I think. We're going to store whatever we have and make a sequence with whatever came before us. That seems okay. So I feel like we should be doing this. Okay, if bar line last is colon, we may not need the Boolean. Okay, we'll store measures in part. That's no arguments, right? So we're saying whatever you had so far, wrap it up into a sequence and with whatever's there, and we got a sequence. All right. Now we need to reset measures. Okay, that does that. And we start accumulating. Okay. That's okay. Right? But okay, so other measures will then just keep appending measures, and then at the end, if bar line dot first is colon, then we've just completed a block of a repeat block. Okay, and in repeat, I don't think we're going to need this. Okay, so if the bar line starts with a colon, then that's the end marker or end marker, and we need to take some action, right? We don't want to store measures in part because that makes a sequence. We want to do something similar that makes a sequence of repetitions. Okay, so let's duplicate. Repetitions in part. Okay. And we'll say we're going to do that. Store repetitions in part. How do you store repetitions? Well, you sequence the current stuff and measures. Is repetition always going to have measures? That could be a way to shortcut some of this. He's not. It's going to get more complicated when we have variant endings, so let's just go with this. All right. Now, we've stored that in the part, and we're ready for the new thing. What is that? Clear out measures. Okay, let's see if we're on track. Very much not, huh? Okay, we need to check, are they legit? F is not equal to FF. So we doubled them again. This looks like the same problem we had before where we left parts in there. Well, here's one problem. I edited the wrong thing. This line goes down here, and this line goes up here. Part should start the sequence like it always did. Repetitions should add the repetitions. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, many more happy. Who are the holdouts? Note parser tests. Well, one thing can happen. Yeah, we weren't handling these repeats before, and now we're just, we use this without really using it properly, I guess. In a way, no, but it's not. Well, it this is not testing repeat signs, so I don't think it's a good test. Put it that way. I think before we just took any combination of bar symbols and we're fine, and now we're being picky. Okay. Handle bar lines. Handle simple repeats. Okay. Now, there's so much to this, but we've made progress. I don't know. Okay, let's see the bar line again. Append current measure. All right, let's go back to our documentation on this stuff. Let's find repeat. Repeat bar symbols. All right. So thin or thick lines, start repeat, end repeat, and you can start and end. Okay, so we don't handle that one, kind of. We process it a little, but we may not be doing it right. Colon, colon is colon, blah, blah, colon. Okay. Yeah, this is bizarre, but I've never seen it in standard notation. I'm not saying it's not there, but it's like we need to count the repeat signs and what happens if one has two and the other one has one and one has three. And yeah. All right. Dotted bar line preceded by a dot. Okay, we don't, that's sort of a semi-visible one. Invisible one. Be liberal. They can be anything. God help you. Okay. Now, the other thing they don't tell you. All right. If you started your song, blah, 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 note, 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 and then you put colon bar, you're really supposed to inject a repeat sign. And I don't know, that's... Well, this example does that, I guess, but with variant endings. ABC, ending 1, ending 2, ending 3, ending 4. So this one did not start with a colon, a bar colon. Okay. But we should take whatever these notes are, followed by these notes, and then the repeat goes back to the start. So version 2 starts with these notes and ends with these, and version 3 goes back to the start, and so on. Version 4 doesn't need to go back to the start. It can just continue on. Some people put a colon there anyway, and we need to make sure that's okay. End ending starts with N, ends with one of these things. You can mark a section as being used for more than one ending. Okay. It's very common. I mean, I don't know. People like me, when they notate stuff like this, will always put the repeat bar in, but there are people who don't. Oh, there we go. Many ABC files, the bar colon may not be present. Okay. So this suggests a good test for us. Let's test that. Once again, he's kind of not keeping up here. All right, this test is somewhat similar, but we're going to test repeats with no opening repeat sign. Okay, so with no opening repeat sign. So this one comes off. I think we can take these two out and just say this should be AA. Okay. A. Okay, the note should be AA. The count should be 2 measures. Right? Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to go back to parts sub A dot measure count. Okay, and then the notes in the flattened measures. Let's pull this down. Okay, let notes equal. Let's just do this. Parts sub A, take the measures, run a flat map. Run a map. Okay, this test will fail, I think. We may have done it right. Okay, we did it right by accident, in effect. We made sure, I mean, not from some grand design, but when you parse the last, you're taking whatever measures you've accumulated so far without knowing whether they came with a repeat sign or not. And so when we hit the last, we store those. When we hit this one, a colon first, we store the repetitions, whatever accumulated measure we have. And that's okay. And it stores it as a repeat, so it plays twice. All right. I'm so happy with that. That's a good thing. All right. So we check that opening bar colon is optional. Now, okay. Well, I'm not going to worry about the colon thing just yet. I'm definitely not going to worry about these things. Are we ready for first and second repeats? Well, we're not. We don't. Okay. We don't have the sophistication to handle them per se. Because the bar one thing, or the bar one thing, that little blip of an ending should be treated as an ending. Now, yeah, I think that's fair to say. Okay. I do have another idea, though. We need to cover the case where there's non-repeats followed by a repeat block followed by whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter at that point. Let's make sure that one works. I think we kind of did it by default, but I think we want to make sure. Okay, tune with measures before all repeats, before any repeats. Okay, so this one, let's put in a regular measure with a G and followed by a repeating block with A and B. I like it. So this should have 5 measures, the G and then A, B, A, B. And this should be G, G, A, B, A, B. Well, let's, okay, yeah, let's do this much, which I think will pass. Okay, and then let's do before and after repeats. Okay, so let's add this. And I think we'll leave out that last last bar line. That's optional. So this one is G, A, B, and then this occurs again. B, C. All right, and it should have 6 measures. Now our measures are 1 note long. It's a little weird, but okay. So we should see G, A, B, A, B, C. G, A, B, A, B, C. Right, and again, I think we probably are okay. Good, okay. Check that we handle measures before or after the repeats. Okay. I feel like I want to stop here. What can we do? Well, let's take stock here. Handle non-varying repeats. So we've done that. Okay, so that's a nice step. Now, we want to deal with these numeric endings. What really ends them? One and two. I mean, I think it's a well, it's kind of like this that I think they said it somewhere. It's either got to be a colon bar or a thick thin or a thin thick. It's These bar lines, we have questions. Um, because I need to ask, are you are you a open, start repeat or an end repeat? Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of combinations. So if if we see bracket one or bar one, we accumulate stuff, but we've started accumulating the endings. Because, like, somebody's got to know first time through play ending one, second time through play ending two. So I feel like you should have the body and then a list of endings. But how would this work if you didn't know you were in a repeat, right? I mean, that would be, well, yeah, there's that very first example, F, A, F, G, F, E, bar one. Now go to the very beginning of the song. Okay. So when you see bar one, what should you be doing? Well, I think you need to say, I think you need to say, you got to gather what's there to the common ending. And then when you see a closing bar, how do you know you're not going to have another ending? Well, I guess you don't. The only way you know is because the closing bar has a 2 in it, right? It's numeric. So that says there's more coming. And if you hit an ending that says there's no more coming, then you're okay. Oh, so is let's say you don't see a bar one, you just see a colon. There's no alternate endings, first and second repeats or any of that stuff. It's just a repeat once kind of thing. Um, Excuse me. All right, so I guess I gotta think like reading a sequence. I see the opening bracket. I'm not, well, I'm gonna close anybody that's open before me, but even if I don't, I've still got the start of the whole tune. And then I see a bar one. I should be saying, I've got the common body. Start gathering an ending. Okay. I guess I almost want to know if I'm repeating again. Okay, so grab the notes. When you see bar one, that says those notes are the first part of a repeated section. They're the common body. And you should put them somewhere because we need to gather notes for measures for the ending. When we see a colon, we say, oh, we're gathering notes for an ending. We better save those in the endings. And then here's the next ending. Clean out the current measures. Okay, so a colon says common. All right, can I make a test? Well, no. The first thing I have to do is I have to decide what's the representation of a repeat or a repeat with variant endings. And I think the answer's got to be this repeat. A repeat contains a common body and a set of alternate endings. The set can be empty if you have no alternates, like the case we already did. All right, so I think that means our repetition is going to have to have more. It's going to have a array of parts, and maybe he can just be an array of measures instead of parts, the way he is now. It is measures, and this is measures, I think. All right, let's go back to part. Okay, repetition contains part. Let's make repetition contain measures. That may take more than 4 minutes, but let's see what happens. All right. Part does not conform to protocol. Equatable. Okay, let's do this. Part, array of part. Okay, that's the main endings. And I don't know, I gotta find another word. Maybe I'll say repeats. Okay, and now let part and parts. Okay, and this is never used. That's fine. Repeats is part. Let part and endings. Let's use that word here too. Endings. And this is I think they call it common body, right? Let's call that common body. Okay, and same thing here. Okay. And well, again, common body and endings. Okay. Should be a couple complaints. Part has no member repetition. Well, you missed a rename. I think we said repeats, right? Wow. If anybody tells you there's no refactoring bugs, don't believe them. Okay, repeats as a second argument, array of parts is empty. part repeats. Array of parts and part repeats. Repeats and the endings. Okay, so we don't handle endings, we just, oops. Right now we're just throwing empty endings in there and going from there. Okay, make repeats. No, it has a list of endings, but don't use them yet. Okay, so we extended our type a little bit to add those endings. We don't work with them yet. All right, so let's make part functions work with extra endings. All right, we'll pick up there tomorrow. So tomorrow is Thursday. We'll be meeting Eastern Time, 2 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight, and 6 to 8:30 p.m. UTC. We will pick up with these extra endings, and once those are in place, I think the simple numeric endings will just kind of fall out of that. All right, thanks for joining. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.